Christ is the word in which we move.
Right, friends, it's time for us to make a start. So, first of all, welcome to everyone who is part of our audience this evening. That's those of us who are in the room, who are heavily outnumbered by those of you online. Good to see you, all of you who are online. I hope you can hear me clearly, because if you can't, you're not going to be able to hear our speakers very clearly. So let me just explain how we're going to run the evening. The focus of the evening is going to be to hear from our two Palestinian friends, from Ashraf and from Zohar. And we're not going to have time, as it were, for members of the audience to speak, but there is going to be opportunity for us to put questions to our speakers. Delighted to be able to be hosting Zohar Francis and the Revd
We've got an
Ashraf
echo
Tannous,
problem with the
who is
sound.
pastor of the Lutheran Church in Bethlehem and Beit Zohar. They're in the UK for a week of political, religious, and cultural events, focusing on the situation in Palestine, the human rights challenges, and the existential threat facing the small but significantly influential Palestinian Christian community. It could hardly be more appropriate an evening on which to be talking about these things together. Let me just tell you a little bit about our speakers. Zohar first. Zohar Francis is a human rights lawyer with 27 years of experience as a Palestinian human rights defender. This has included counseling and representing Palestinian prisoners and advising organizations on legal issues. Zohar earned her law degree from the University of Haifa in the 1990s and has sought tirelessly to expose Israel's human rights abuses in the occupation ever since. She's a renowned expert on human rights, having addressed both the European Parliament and recently the Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory. Zohar has been active for many years in civil society networks, such as the Palestinian non-governmental organizations and the Palestinian Human Rights Organizations Council. And she is currently an active member of the Palestinian Christian Kairos Palestine network. Zohar, you're very welcome, and we are very privileged to have time with you. We look forward to it. Ashraf, the Revd Ashraf Tannous, was born in Jerusalem and raised in Ramallah. He did his undergraduate studies at the Near Eastern School of Theology in Beirut, Lebanon, then went on to seminar at the Bossi Seminary in Geneva, Switzerland.
Okay.
Was ordained into the Evangelical.
Yes, yours is working fine. I'm sorry about that. For all I know, that mine may be
First
on.
of all, as an associate pastor in Jerusalem. Since then, he has served congregations in Beit Zohar, Beit Jala, and since June 25, he has been installed at the Christmas Lutheran Church in Bethlehem. For 9 years, he led the youth work in Jordan and the Holy Land in the Evangelical Lutheran Church until 2021, and now serves as the Chief Justice in the Ecclesiastic Court. Ashraf lives with his wife and 3 boys in Jerusalem. In his spare time, he is working toward a doctorate in ministry from the United Lutheran Seminary of Philadelphia, Pasadena, which he hopes to complete in 2026. We want to wish you luck with your doctorate, and thank you so much for being here with us, Ashraf. So let's set the scene, and if I could ask both of you to begin with, could each of you share how the current situation is being experienced by your communities in Gaza, the West Bank, or the diaspora?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for allowing us for this opportunity to come to Manchester and speak to you. As far as I know, we have a partnership with this church. So I greet you in the name of the Christmas Lutheran Church, the congregation, and everybody over there, and my colleague Revd Munder, who started this partnership with you. So thank you, and I hope we will continue with this partnership. Well, the current situation. This is a very, the question of dissension. How is things back home? In Gaza, the only thing I can tell you that they are living a real 21st century genocide, watched and embraced by several countries all over the world, and they are living under, in, and above the rebels. And imagine this situation. Gaza is destroyed. Lots of people were massacred. It's a complete genocide. And concerning the Christians over there, they are not better than any other Gazan people. Yeah, so it's not, they are not better than other Gazan. They are Gazan people, okay? They are Christian. They are staying at the church, but nothing is protecting. If they go outside to go to the toilet, some people, passed out. They were shocked because two, like a mother and their daughter, they went out to go to the toilet. Both of them were deadly shot.
So lots of relatives passed away because of they can't reach the hospitals. They were injured, they were wounded. Some of them they were sick, so they were unable to go to a hospital because of the excessive shooting and killing of these people. They just shoot whatever they see, walking, scrolling, whatever mention people they see, they just kill. Concerning the West Bank, it's a silent genocide. And I call it's a silent genocide. It's silent. Why it's silent genocide? Because daily parades, daily, arresting, they go inside the West Bank areas and they go out. Nobody is holding them accountable. They just, arrest whoever they want. They just kill whoever they want. This morning, a guy from Al-Zababde near Jenin, he was shot or he was killed today because he was his accusation was that he's going to work to get food
for his family. So he was shot dead this morning, and of course the series continues every day. It's a life. For example, in Bethlehem area, people are hardly getting an income for their lives since the war, this genocide war. Tourism stopped, no tourism, and as you know, Bethlehem area, they depend around 80% on tourism, and the other maybe 15% they depend on working in Jerusalem, and the 5% they have their own business. So around 95% of the Bethlehemites. Of course, Bethlehem, it's a government. So Beit Sahur, Bethlehem, Beit Jala, and other the rest of the villages around it, they depend on these things. So now nothing is happening. No tourism, no working in Jerusalem, and nothing at all. So people are hardly finding a place to work and hardly finding food to eat. So I literally tell you that there are some families, and Christian among them, they don't have 5 shekels to buy bread. You see, to buy bread, basically. Okay, so this is the issue of the West Bank. The diaspora, they are seeking to return. Of course, this is the right of return. And as you see, the key is symbolize the right of the return. This is a right. So at least these people have to have self-determination to determine, to choose, do they want to go back to live in Palestine or they don't want? So at least to give them the choice to choose whatever. So this is basically, in short, what I want to say.
Good evening, and again, thank you for hosting us tonight. It's the privilege and honor. I think that, of course, we all know that it didn't start on the 7th of October, but what we were experiencing in the last 2 years was the most difficult experience for me as a lawyer working in human rights, especially in defending prisoners, because all what I documented and followed and defended as a lawyer before the October 23 was something, and what happened on the level of the prisoners after the genocide started in Gaza is something different. We will reach there and discuss more about the issue and the treatment and all the violations that these prisoners felt. But I wanted to highlight for you, as a Christian citizen of the state of Israel, by the way, my family is still living in the small Catholic village called Fasouta in the Lebanese border. And in these 2 years, we lived under total segregation and discrimination that was so obvious from day one of the war, when they started to evacuate, I mean the state started to move all the neighboring Jewish villages to schools and shelters in the center of the state, or in Tel Aviv, mostly in Tel Aviv area, and they left Fasouta alone, and they decided to block the way to the village with a checkpoint similar to the checkpoints in the West Bank, and we were left, and they are totally aware that in this village there's hardly 5 public shelters. That is not enough for 3,000 people living. Most of the houses in the village don't have protected space in the house to stay in. My 82 years old mom was living these 2 years in the war alone in this house without a shelter in the house. And we are citizens of this state. I mean, this is the very simple aspect of a total discrimination that is implemented on the daily life of the people. And it doesn't matter if you are a Christian or you are a Muslim. If you are a Palestinian, you would be treated in this way. So under the war with the Lebanon, the Hezbollah or Iran, or like, we were never feeling safe, or we have a space to really feel that we can be safe. So you can imagine if they treat their own citizens in such emergency in this way, how people in Gaza, in the West Bank, or in East Jerusalem would be treated under emergency. Like, I don't think we would have ever enough time to tell you about what it meant when they declared on the night of the 7th of October, this special emergency situation in all historic Palestine, not just on the state of Israel, in all the occupied territories as well, and how it reflected in all the emergency regulations and amendments to the laws in order to enable the security and the police to raid houses, to arrest people, to demolish, to oppress the whole Palestinian society, irrelevant if you are active, not active, if you, like, they were stopping people, students, elderly, activists, journalists, everyone would be stopped, and they digged in our cell phones to check if we are consuming channels like Al Jazeera or other Arabic channels, and we would be a lot of Palestinians from the Israeli city, like they are citizens of the state, mainly students and people who work in hospitals, were arrested, were kicked out from their jobs for incitement because they charged them with incitement if they found in their cell phones any articles shared or that they read from Al Jazeera information. To this level, the control and the oppression, and it's continuing because the emergency situation, this special emergency situation is still declared.
Thank you both of you. Let's talk about the ceasefire, if we may. So how, if you believe Donald Trump, everything has been changed. The new world has begun. All that's needed is for him to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and we can all go off into the sunset. But when you look at the ceasefire, from a legal and political standpoint, do you think this is a genuine step towards ending the violence, or mainly a diplomatic maneuver?
I don't trust and I don't believe that this is almost a genuine agreement not to end the genocide and definitely not to solve, as he claimed, is his ridiculous speech in front of the Knesset, that he's ending a conflict of 3,000 years. This is totally, bizarre. And it's really degrading and humiliating. Like on the personal level, when I watched him and Netanyahu speaking 2 days before, I felt so offended because we all know that Netanyahu never respected any political agreement, whether for ceasefire, whether the Oslo process, and in the Oslo agreement, the Palestinian state was supposed to be established 5 years after 1993. It was Netanyahu himself who canceled and made sure that this is never going to happen. Why now we should trust him? And with 30 years of such heritage of re-arresting those that they would be released on the previous exchange deal, these 2,000 people who were arrested, they will never be protected. They could be re-arrested tomorrow if the Israeli security and the army wants this. And I don't think for Trump it really matters the lives of the Palestinian people. He never thought in his speech, neither in the Knesset or in Sharm el-Sheikh, about the genocide. Okay, I don't expect him to call it genocide, but at least to mention the 20,000 Palestinian children who died in this genocide. He never mentioned them. So I don't think that this is really a good start for peace and ending the conflict, because we have to deal with the root causes of this colonization, settler colonial regime in the Palestinian land.
Thank you, Sarah. And Ashraf, as a pastor and a theologian and a biblical scholar, does this deal, do you think, represent hope for your people? Or does it fall far short of what's needed for real justice?
Yeah, well, as a theologian and pastor, I have never waited any president to give us hope. As Christian, I think my hope comes directly from heaven. And secondly, it comes from the Palestinian people who are resilient, who are having this resilience sumud, and who are laughing and smiling despite of the fact that they are living under the destruction. despite the fact that they are bombed, they are massacred, they are put under genocide. I get this hope from such people who says to the whole world, in spite of whatever you are doing, we are still smiling, and this smile is a sign of hope. So believe me, as a Christian, and as a Palestinian, and as a pastor, I always tell such people like Trump and even the Western societies that they think that they are bringing us hope. We are not waiting your hope, because we are the people who give the whole world hope. And I always tell the friends who come and even the visitors, the international guests, I always tell them, you have to learn something from this. You have to learn how to hope in a hopeless situation, how to love in a situation where it's full of hatred, and how to turn this love and this lamentation into freedom. And this is the most important thing for me. And this is what I always implement and plant in the hearts and the lives of my children, of my congregation, and my students at the school.
Thank you. I want to move us on to human rights and the treatment of prisoners. Zohar, if I could start with you. I mean, you spent years documenting the treatment of Palestinian prisoners. And if you look at the situation prior to 7th of October and now, and over the last while, has the scale or nature of detention for prisoners changed since this phase of the war began?
Yes, definitely. On the 6th of October, there were 5,200 Palestinian prisoners. Within a couple of months, it's jumped to reach 10,000 or so. In these 2 years, they arrested from the West Bank alone 18,000 people, including 1,500 children, if not more, less than 18, elderly. People in age 75 were arrested under administrative detention for 6 months or 1 year. Journalists, women in their 8th month of pregnancy were arrested and sent for administrative detention. So they used the issue of detention and imprisonment as the main tool to control and oppress the whole society, whether Palestinians inside the state or in Jerusalem or in the West Bank or in the Gaza Strip. Thousands of people were arrested in the Gaza Strip and brought to detention and imprisonment. The level of violence, torture, degrading treatment, humiliation that intentionally is imposed in order to break the soul of the people, the dignity, I've never documented, even in the worst cases of torture that we documented over these decades in interrogation, it wasn't in this way implemented that it's not just a torture, physical or the level of psychological torture was much higher than the physical torture itself. And also the tools, the humiliation and treatment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for so long was so awful. Some of the detainees from Gaza were handcuffed literally more than 1 year, 7 days a week, 24 hours. Just when they wanted to shower for 3 minutes once a week, they were taking the handcuffs. They were eating, sleeping, sitting the whole day. Whenever they enter to count them, and they do it 4 times a day, they forced all the detainees to kneel on their knees, to put their hands with the handcuffs over their head, and their head would be on the ground. They're not allowed to look into the eyes of the soldiers. If they dare to do, they would be beaten till death. 78 prisoners lost their life out. It never happened since 48 till today that so many people died inside the prisons, and their bodies are still kept with the Israeli side. We would need long time to reflect all the data that we collected to now interview those who were released and to work it out and to produce comprehensive reports. Some of the people that I knew them for decades, after they were released, I couldn't recognize them out of the starvation and how much weight they lost in 6 months or 8 months or 1 year. Can you imagine a child 17 years old dies in custody in less than 1 year because of starvation and scabies? Who dies from scabies in the 21st century?
What was that word?
The skin disease that you actually.
It's from malnourishment.
So the situation of the prisoners is really so significant in the level of brutality and violence and harsh conditions that they were, and it continues. Like even after the ceasefire, it continues. They released these 2,000 people. Still, there's 9,000 in prison. Majority of them, more than half of them, they are under administrative detention, arbitrary detention, and unlawful combatant detention, which means arbitrarily detained based on secret information, and so without trial, without anything.
Can I then ask, because if you put together what you've been telling us with the legacy of the genocide that we've seen, that the people have experienced, you know, I want to ask the question about the role of faith. How can that, and possibly Ashraf, if I could direct this to you, how does a community of faith live with these things, these experiences? How do they sustain dignity and resistance? How do they keep going? How do they deal with mourning and memory and things like forgiveness? I mean, forgiveness begins to sound almost obscene. Is it even possible?
Yeah, thank you. Well, I don't know the answer myself, you know. The only answer I know, the only thing I know, that we as Palestinian people, we are resilient. We believe that this is our land, okay? And this land, we have to protect. Yes, we have occupation. Yes, there are lots of unlawful things that's happening for us. But I think our faith is very solid. I think it is sin. It is a sin for a Palestinian Christian not to believe in God, because God incarnated in their own land. And God incarnated in the land because the people of that land are resilient. And God chose Palestine, not because it's biblically speaking, you know, and it's all small town of Bethlehem and so on and so forth. But I think because God knows that these people are very faithful people, and no matter what they live, they will never ever give up their faith for any reason. this is maybe very much, let me say, emotional what I'm saying. But it's really so. I mean, this is what I feel. Sometimes I ask the same question. How come we as Palestinians, and for me, myself, as a Palestinian Christian, who is even allowed to go and ask for any asylum, how come am I staying and struggling and having this resilience in this land? How come I'm still bearing this humiliation, bearing this very difficult life, and staying in Palestine? Because I feel that I belong to there. When I was in Germany, I did my internship. They told me, Ashraf, please stay here. We like you, we get used to you, and so on and so forth. I told them a German phrase, Ich gehöre nicht zu hier. I don't belong to this place. They said, explain it a little bit more. I said, when God gave birth for me in Palestine, God gave birth for me in Palestine and for all the Palestinians in Palestine for a reason. And I think the reason that I am born in Palestine for a Christian family is to become a pastor, to serve a congregation, a Palestinian congregation, to serve the Palestinian all without any discrimination between Christian, Muslim, and even Jew, and to tell them exactly that you are people of this land, and this land is holy because you are holy people, you are faithful people, and you are people who will never ever give us their hope, their faith, and their love, whatever happens in their life.
May I add something?
Please do. Yes.
From my experience in the last 2 years, especially with the families and prisoners from Gaza, I think the faith, the very deep faith, irrelevant if you're Christian or Muslim, and they are mainly Muslims who were arrested from the Gaza. I didn't recall any Christian from Gaza that was arrested. It's unbelievable. It was so shocking for me, for all the team. We didn't hear any complaint, any bad words, any doubts in God and His will all these 2 years. With all the suffer and the horror that they faced, they were always saying, thanks God. This is the only word exactly, alhamdulillah, in Arabic. And this is God will. Like till today, I can't understand. And I believe this is what enables people to take all this and be able to continue and be able to look for the future. This deep belief that we all humans are living in this earth as a permanent, like how you say it, a phase. It's not the real life. The real life will be after death with God in heaven. It's amazing.
Thank you. So talking about life beyond now, if we think of what peace with justice might mean in Palestine, in Gaza, the West Bank, can I ask both of you, you as a theologian, Ashraf, and you as a lawyer, Zohar, what does that mean? Peace with justice. What does it look like? And how should churches be responding to that now, do you think?
Well, just peace is what we are fighting for. I mean, we can't say that we want peace without shaking the hand. In fact, we can't speak about peace when there are no, there is no real intention to have peace. I mean, the last couple of years, I mean, the Palestinians, they almost gave up everything for the sake of peace. And it was obvious for us as Palestinians, because some of us were not happy with our government, because they are giving up things for the sake of peace. And the other side is not really collaborating, or they're not really giving any reaction. So we said, it's enough, خلاص. That's it. I mean, what should we give more? I mean, even we made a joke at that time. So for our president, that okay, he gave up going he doesn't want to go to Safad anymore, because he's originally from Safad. So we made some jokes about it, but this was the reality, that we did not have anything else to give up for the sake of peace, but the other side was not willing for peace. And peace is not alone. It's not alone enough. And I always say there were three people. Okay, one is 180 centimeters, one is 150, and one is 210. Okay, so cycle, very tall. Okay, so in front of them there is a wall, and behind the wall, okay, there is a football pitch. So what does equality says? Equality says there are 3 boxes. Each box is 30 centimeters. Okay? What does equality says? Equality says that we give each one of these 3 a box. So we give the one who is already 210 a box, he will become 240. The one who is 180, we give him a box, he will become 210. And the one 150, we give him a box or her a box, and she will become 180. So the first 2, they will be able to see the game. The last one will not be able to see the game, because she is already, or he is already 180. So still, the wall is 2 meters. What does justice say? Justice say that we take the one box from beneath this guy who is already 210, and we give it to the one who is now, after the first box, is 180. So all of them will be just from below and equal from above. But we are not even saying this anymore. Today we are asking for our liberation and our freedom. What does this mean? We move and destroy the wall, so that there will be no wall anymore, so that everybody in their own life shape, how God created them, they can see the match or football game liberating in freedom and not in anything else. So we have to have not only peace, we have to have a just peace and an equal peace, where everybody lives in a place to feel that they are at least human being, that they are treated as human, they are being dealt with as human being, and not vice versa.
You are saying the one-state solution is the solution.
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll come to that. Thank you for the reminder.
all right.
I totally agree with Ashraf, but for me as a lawyer, the issue of accountability is always there, to be honest. I can't see any reconciliation, any process of peace, forgiveness, and living, whether in one state, 2 states, together, separate. A very basic thing is that perpetrators should recognize what they did and enable the people who were suffering from such very serious, grave violations like genocide and all the other war crimes that were committed for decades in this area, to feel that they are recognized that they suffered so harsh. So the question of accountability is very important. And without really going back to the root causes of this conflict, discussing the Nakba from day one, what happened in 48, because for me, what happened now is continuity. It isn't, again, it didn't start on the 7th of October. So this is why the ceasefire is not, it's very important in order to stop the daily killing of the people in Gaza. But imagine the people now in Gaza, 75% of the people in Gaza anyway were refugees from 48, were displaced from their original villages. These same kibbutzes and village, like Jewish towns in the borders that they were invaded in the 7th of October. Maybe these people were coming, their families were coming from these villages and beyond. So I mean, definitely there's a need to discuss and talk about what happened in 48 and after, and guarantee that if it's not gonna happen again, never again. Exactly, it can't be that Israel would be allowed to go away with this genocide. It's so serious, going to affect the whole international system, not just the legal system, the political order as well. If Israel, with the support of the United States, will be able to get away with committing genocide and not be accountable for this, what it will mean? It will mean that everyone in the world can do the same if he has the power to do it and the correct friend to support him.
I think the British government's recognition of the state of Palestine was hugely significant for us in the UK. I wonder how significant it feels from where you are, and what that state looks like from where you sit. Are we talking about one state, two states, or what?
Yeah, well, for me, it's a package. It's not only a recognition of the state of Palestine. It's a package. The package is recognition, holding Israel accountable of what they have done the last years or decades, hold Britain accountable because they are the reason of our Nakba. They have to apologize and they have to take their own responsibility towards the Palestinian people. And they have to show the good intention, at least, to stop supporting and embargo these, trading the weapons and so on and so forth. And they have themselves, as you, as British people, you have to start your own campaign, okay, to stop the occupation and ending it, and to find a solution, as you have found a solution 80 years ago for the Jewish people to come and live in Palestine. You have to find a solution as well for this problem. I mean, okay, we will take the responsibility in a way. We have to accept the reality. But this reality, as the madam over there said, she was prophesizing what I was going to say. She said something I always say: the two-state solution is a solution, but it is not the solution. Okay, the solution, as we were discussing, and Sahar reminded me before we entered, we always say that my grandmother, well, I did not see her, but she passed away before I was born. But she used always, my dad used to always to tell me that your grandmother used to tell us that before 1948, the mother of Moshe and the mother of Muhammad and the mother of Elias, These are, apparently Jewish, Muslim, and Christian. They used to gather together to cook for Christmas, to prepare together, for Ramadan to prepare together, and for the Jewish festival, they used to cook and prepare together. This was Palestine before 1948, before this Zionist project that is happening, and they are trying to poison the mentality of the European. And unfortunately, the Western society and the Europeans are naive enough to believe that Trump, who said that I am today solving a problem which is 300 years old, 3,000 years old. Come on. It's a real problem if the Western societies now in the 21st centuries are still idiot enough and naive enough to believe this guy and to believe what he is saying. Unfortunately, there are millions of people who believe such man, either Benjamin Netanyahu or Trump. They believing that this is a religious war. Okay? We have lots of evidence that say will definitely says that this is never and will never be religious. I was told.
Yes, of course, the recognition is very important, and it was due decades ago, after Oslo immediately, when Israel, after 5 years, didn't respect the agreement. I think if the European countries were taking this measure and recognizing Palestine as a full state and forcing Israel to abide to the international law, this was saving us from all these years of continuity of this genocide that started in 48. But anyway, I think it's still what not just the UK, but all the European Western countries and all the countries, all what we call them in the legal terminology, third state parties to the Fourth Geneva Convention for the international law. They have responsibilities and obligations, and they never respected it when it comes for the Israeli-Palestinian issue. The ICJ ruling around the illegality of the occupation that was issued last September and followed by a resolution in the General Assembly with majority of the countries, of the 190 plus countries. Of course, the UK and France and all the main European countries didn't share in the voting, but still it's their responsibility to respect these rulings. It lists perfectly what it means, all the crimes and the violations that Israel is committing, that Israel should stop immediately, and what's the state supposed to do. They're not supposed to continue to support the illegal occupation. What this means for Britain, military embargo. You cannot purchase arms and sell weapons for a country that is committing such a grave violation. Not just the genocide, I mean for the presence of Israel in the occupied territories, it's illegal. So if Britain is continuing to support this presence, this is complicity, this is legal responsibility on the UK and all the other states. If the UK companies support the continuity of the occupation, for example, if you buy wine that is produced in the settlements, it's illegal, it's a crime. You should sue this British company for the support of the occupation. I mean, just take this ICJ decision. It gives us a perfect work plan in each country. What's the responsibilities of the governments, of the civil society, of the businesses, the big corporations, because there is special rules in the UN system for these corporations how they should respect human rights and international law. They are not allowed to violate international law. They are as the states, these big entities. So I think this is the very powerful text that could be the guidelines for us how to continue in our struggle to end the occupation, because this is the key solution, I think.
So that's really helpful, particularly because it's taken account that you've answered two other questions I was going to ask. So thank you for that. So Ashraf, in the same vein, what three things would you like, if you were able to say to every church in the UK, this is what you can do concretely to work towards the kind of freedom and justice and peace that we're talking about? What would you ask us to do?
Well, I took my phone because I was looking, or I wanted to bring this verses from the Bible, from Mark chapter 3, verses 31 through 35. And this is the true kindred of Jesus. And then whoever, he says, Jesus says, you know, this is the story when the mother of Jesus came to him with her, the family. And then they asked him, they said, well, your mother is outside calling you. He said that whoever does the will of God is my mother and brother and so on. So he says, whoever does the will of God is my brother and sister and mother. What is the will of God for us as Christians? And not only for us as Christians, I mean, for everyone who follows the book of God, the Old Testament being. And this Old Testament applies for the Jewish people as well. Okay, what is the will of God? The will of God, okay, comes, or one of the issues that God is telling us to do is when God spoke to Moses in Leviticus chapter 19. He spoke several things. And he said to Moses, tell my people that you shall be holy. For I, the Lord your God, am holy. What is holy? I mean, I think the churches in England especially, who were very silent, and we always say silence is complicit to the genocide. Do the will of God. The will of God is to fight for justice, is to stand with the marginalized, with those who are being under genocide, with those who has been massacred, killed, and slaughtered, for those who are put into starvation, for those who are forced displaced from their houses. Leviticus continues to say, you shall not steal. You shall not kill. You shall take care of your neighbor. You shall not put a hole in front of the blind people, and you shall not curse the deaf people. This is what Leviticus is saying. It's not Leviticus. This is what God is saying. So what I want to say, I encourage the churches in England to support and encourage and endorse the BDS, to speak boldly like Jesus did, because we are the followers of Jesus on the earth. And I think, and I say it from here clearly, to stand on the side of the oppressor is a sin against God and humanity. And the churches must wake up and stand firmly and boldly and speak up and say, this is not acceptable. This is not the teachings of God. This is not the teaching of our Bible. This is not the teachings of our Jesus. What Jesus is telling us, love your God and your neighbor as well.
we could go on, but we're not going to. I want to say a warm thank you to both of you for starting us off and sharing so openly and personally and vulnerably. We've been privileged and we've been blessed. And we're now going to carry on this conversation. For those of you online, you'll be put into breakout rooms for 7 minutes. And during those 7 minutes, if you could come up with 2 questions that you would like to ask further, maybe to probe further, or to introduce something else that hasn't been part of the conversation so far.
If you had a single Israeli state and several Palestinian states, would that be a practical solution? And then, is teaching about the origins of the conflict to outsiders, would that be helpful?
So those were the questions in the room and online.
Okay, so we have some online questions. Thank you very much. So, there was a question around politicians keep on talking about a 2-state solution. Do you think that's the answer? I think we've at least started with that. There's a question around, I know the UK charity Embrace the Middle East has a campaign of childhood behind bars, calling on the UK government to pressure Israel to end military child detention in the West Bank and beyond. Is there anything else that we can do to help the prisoners, especially children? And thank you so much to both of you for all that you'll be praying for you, for your safety and your protection. That's lovely.
Thank you.
Yes, so is a 2-state solution even a possibility is the question. And there's a lot of doubt about whether that's possible. So those are the sorts of things coming from online.
Thank you. So I'm going to leave it up to Ashraf and Zohar to answer as many of those as they can in whatever order they choose to do so.
So well, I think personally, all of the Palestinians, patriots are good to lead the Palestinian and to unite them. I think this is what I feel. But I think we have a good and fair person who is today was promised to get released. His name is Marwan Barghouti. And I think this guy is loved and accepted by all the Palestinian parties. There are some others who are not really in the screen because they send them out. Like, for example, there's another one, his name is Mustafa Barghouti. But for example, there is شو اسمه هذا ناصر القضوي. He relates to the late president Yasser Arafat, and he is accepted from all the parties. And recently he's back into the Fatah party. They said, okay, come back and we will embrace you. Anyhow, but saying this is, I think, egocentric. I am mean to say this because I think the Palestinians have the right for election. This is democracy, and they have to choose their own leaders. This was my reading for the street, but as well, if we are if democratic people and the whole world respect our democracy as well, then they have to respect to make election, and the one who wins, then he or she will be the loved one and the one who everybody thinks that they will lead Palestine. What can we do as churches? I said it out clearly, and I repeat it again. Do the will of God. Do the will of God. don't stay silent in the face of the empire. You have to have faith in the face of the empire. You have to speak out in the face of the empire. The ICC and the ICJ, I think this question is tiny, but you are able to see that the one who is controlling the whole world is one, who vetoes everything for the sake of Islam. As Sahar said, the moment these people are not held accountable and they are above the international law, then everybody who is having power, they will be above the law as well. Nobody can blame them. Who will reconstruct Gaza? I think this is the responsibility of the USA and Israel. USA and Israel. And each country that shared and sent weapons to destroy Gaza and to make the genocide. And part of these people are the UK. So I'm sorry to say. Whoever stood against Gaza and shared and played a role to destroy the civilians and to destroy Gaza is responsible to reconstruct.
Thank you.
I don't want to reflect on who will lead the Palestinian people. Just this morning, a friend of mine from Gaza was writing on the Facebook, please, can you stop talking about the next day and give us some space to grieve? And I think it says a lot. About the trust for the ICJ and the ICC, believe me, as a lawyer who dedicated all my career, like since I graduated, I started to work with prisoners and human rights and the international law system. It was so frustrating these 2 years. I couldn't meet any student in the Birzeit University or any of the Palestinian universities to discuss about international law and human rights. Because it was so difficult to talk to people that these institutions, that this set of law can work, because it's clear on the ground that it's not working for us. It wasn't designed for us to benefit from it. But believe me, even though I still believe that this is the only way for us as human beings to guarantee that we can live in a beautiful world, because the opposite will mean that we are living in a jungle and the rule of jungle. If we allow that states will destruct the international law system, I don't know how this world will look like. So this is why it's really very, very important, and it's our responsibility. And this leads me to what you can do. For me, it's not just about Palestine anymore. It's also about you, people living in this country, what your children and grandchildren will live in, which world, controlled by what, by whom. What happened in Palestine, what happened in Russia and Ukraine could happen everywhere. This hypocrisy will reach you here. It's not just toward the south of the world. So you should be worried, not less than me, about this practicality or the fact that this system can work or not. So this is one responsibility, how to protect and maintain and criticize, because for me, some changes, serious changes, should take place in this system. How come the Security Council, 5 big countries, cannot stop a genocide for 2 years? How come? We cannot tolerate such a system. The other thing that the movement, the mobilization that you shared in and developed in the last 2 years here in the UK, in Spain, in Italy, everywhere should continue. We should not stop the mass mobilization to isolate Israel in order to send a powerful message that they should be accountable and they should pay the price for the genocide. It shouldn't stop. Although there's a ceasefire, but of course, this is not the solution. The solution is the accountability and making justice on solid basis. For the online questions, though, can you remind us with them? Because I'm sorry, I didn't remember what were the questions from the online.
The most important is.
So in the meantime, the training about the root causes, definitely, this is the basics that will, and I believe this is what happened in these 2 years. Young people and all the people that they were not interested before in Palestine, when they saw the genocide in their cell phones, they went back and learned more about what this conflict is about. And this is why they decided to go to the streets. So this is the perfect example to show that we need to educate more and more and more people about the root causes of this conflict.
Yeah, so the question was, how do we support the prisoners, especially the children?
Okay, so of course, in this mobilization and campaigning around ending the occupation, I insist that now we should really focus that the pressure should demand ending the occupation with all the practices. And the issue of the imprisonment is one of these practices that the ICJ declared it's illegal, which means definitely the arrest of children and the treatment of children is illegal, but not just. It's including administrative detention. It's including the whole military system is illegal. The whole military laws, military orders that Israel is developing is illegal because the occupation is illegal. This is the way how we should take things from now on, which means we should demand the release of all prisoners, dismantling the military court system. And of course, I'm in favor of taking individuals, whether they are children or women or elderly, or political leaders like Marwan, or sick prisoners as examples in our campaigning. You can use one case in order to reflect about the whole situation. So please do engage with us, with the friends either from Kairos, Sabeel, or Christian Aid that we did lots of work on these issues before, or other UK-based organizations that they focus on Palestine, and you can get the information from our side to be used in your campaigning and your work.
Can I make a comment on the ICJ and relevance from the UK?
Yeah.
So one thing I think is really important for us in the UK to do is that our country hasn't done what America has done, which is to deny the jurisdiction and the ruling of, say, the ICJ or to sanction the ICC. But it has also currently not issued any statement in support of the ICJ decision. What it has said is, we respect the ICJ, we respect its position as the highest international court, and we will provide guidance on what we believe to be the case of the ICJ. And that's effectively sitting on the fence, because the moment the UK government says, we respect the decision, they are acknowledging that the occupation is illegal, and then they are acknowledging their third state responsibility that Sahara has talked about. That ICJ decision paper has been sat on the Attorney General's desk for 10 months. 10 months with no issuing statement, no agreement, nothing. So we should all be writing to our government saying, why is the UK government not supporting the ICJ decision on the illegality of the occupation? And we should be demanding, okay, you're not going to support it, tell us you're not supporting it. But if you are supporting it, then your responsibility kicks in. And that's when we start campaigning on all those different issues around ending the illegal occupation. But we need them to actually issue a statement saying they agree with it. So we should all be writing en masse to our government about that.
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks, Charlotte. I'm going to, while I'm here, I'm going to ask Kevin if he would close in prayer for us, because it's that time at the end of the night. Before I do so, I think we're all aware of the debt that we owe to Ashraf and Zohar for tonight. Not only for what they've told us, but for who they are and the roles they play back home, as well as on the international stage. And so we want to pray for you and commit you to God, as we do all of us, on the understanding that we want to act, not just to listen, but to do as you advised us and told us we needed to do, Ashraf. So bless you both.
I wonder if I'm tapping into my evangelical charismatic days here, so because I believe in the power of prayer to collapse the realm of the complete possibilities in the quantum field, collapsing into this one, which is what we agree with our hearts together. We connect our hearts as we close our eyes and we breathe. And we imagine that our hearts are connected with our minds, with our soul. There is a light that burns in our hearts, that burns up into our mind. And it spreads out above our heads and touches one another. And I will ask you to raise your hand and point it to Zohar and Ashraf, just to put your palm towards them. You can do that at home as well, towards the camera, so we can feel the energy of our collective intent filling our sister and our brother, and their families, and their churches, and their institutions that they work so hard to support, and their communities, and their country, and their people. Jesus, we invoke the Prince of Peace. We pray that you would send out your angel to touch the hearts of the littlest person, to the important people, to those who refuse to budge because they are caught up in the midst of their own importance and superiority. What you do to the least of these, you do to me, says Jesus. And so we pray for release. We pray for peace. We pray for justice. We pray for equity. We pray for true reconciliation. Not surface peace where there is no peace, but a true, deep reckoning with what is there. And so I will borrow from Revd Ashraf's prayer. If I must die, you must live. To tell my story, to sell my things, to buy a piece of cloth and some string. Make it white with a long tail, so that a child somewhere in Gaza, while looking heaven in the eye, awaiting his father, who left no blame. And bid no one farewell, not even to his flesh, not even to himself. He sees the kite, my kite, you made, flying up above. And thanks for a moment that an angel is there, bringing back love. So if I must die, let it bring hope. Let it be obtained. We pray these things in and through the name of the Prince of Peace, our Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone. Thank you to those of you who joined us online and put up with the whatever technical failings there were. But we will keep moving on these things and keep things moving and the discussions and the activities, the action going. God bless everyone. Let's
Thank you
just
to those online as well.
Have fun.